The Order of Light presents We Are the Disclosure, EP.7, with our guest, Brett Larson of the band Inquire Within, as we explore the extraterrestrial phenomena. Now is the time for those with experiences to speak. We are not waiting for the disclosure. We are the disclosure. Hello, everyone. I'm Robert Earl White.
Hi, and I'm Josh Miota.
With our special guest, Brett Larson from the band Inquire Within.
Hello.
And together,
we are the disclosure. Welcome, everyone. We have an amazing show with an experiencer named Brett Larson. He's in an awesome heavy metal, death metal band and light classical rock experimental group, Inquire Within. Really awesome music. All the lyrics are very, very in tune with the extraterrestrial phenomena, covering all ends of conspiracies and things like that. It's really, really great tunes. And he's an experiencer as well. When I first reached out to him, I heard his music before getting to know him. And I was listening to the lyrics. I'm like, I think this guy may have some experiences of his own. So I reached out to him, and to my surprise, he's highly involved in the disclosure community. He's been doing a lot over on the West Coast and doing a lot with his music. And he's had a couple experiences as well. So, Brett, welcome. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you both for having me on here. I have been a fan of yours, Roberts, ever since I started seeing all of your live streams and videos pop up on TikTok. That was instantly pretty epic. All of the characters you do with Rico and shedding season, brother.
Yeah, it's shedding season. Rico. Absolutely, man. So to get right into it, I appreciate that so much. So when did these experiences start happening for you? When did this phenomena become more than something you just see in a movie and you started actively researching this thing?
Well, for me, like as far back as I can remember, I've had an interest in it all the way back to elementary school, where all the pictures I would draw were alien related, to the point to where I had my elementary school teachers would buy me like little stuffed aliens and stuff, because that's all I was ever going on about.
That's
and
cool.
Then towards middle school or that sort of age, I stopped caring about any of that sort of stuff. And then around probably 14 or 15, that's when on YouTube I started seeing people posting UFO sightings, stuff like that. I think this was later on, but when Paul Hellyer did his speech, the ex-Canadian Minister of Defense, when he did his retirement speech.
R.I.P. Rest in peace, Paul.
Yep. And that was just epic. And
where did you live, Brett? Where did you live?
So I grew up and lived in Marysville, Washington, and I'm currently over in Kashmir, Washington. So I have a place up in the Cascade Mountains.
All right, the West Coast. Right on. So please continue.
So yeah, then I, at some point or another, came across Dr. Stephen Greer and his work with CE5, and me and a bunch of my friends, we were always like wanting to see a UFO sighting for ourselves, stuff like that, where we see it all on YouTube, people talking about their sightings and experiences, all these government insiders coming forward. And then we saw with CE5, it's like, whoa, this is an opportunity for us to have a sighting for ourselves and kind of bring it upon by ourselves, and not it just be some mental or psychic sighting, have a physical in the real world sighting that you bring upon. And so it was one of my friends and I, we the first night that we ever tried it worked, and we saw a couple just little lights kind of going, but moving in ways that didn't quite make sense. And we had, prior to that, downloaded those apps where you can check for satellites, check for space debris, check for flights and all that sort of stuff. So we could, to the best of our ability, make sure it wasn't something more explainable.
Mhm.
And then we went out the next night, same sort of thing. We had it working. And so that's kind of when I got really hooked into this, where it's like, oh man, if people realize like you can prove it to yourself, you don't need to just rely on people's testimony and grainy YouTube videos and trying to, I think the key is so many people are waiting for some sort of official disclosure to come down from the president. But whether that happens or not, there's probably going to be some sort of agenda behind it. And so people, you can prove it to yourself and have these experiences.
It's easy, right? Just look up 10 minutes a night, 10 minutes a night. Just look up. That's it. Stop looking at your phones. Look up 10 minutes a night. That's it.
Yep.
Right.
Wow. So when you started getting into this, you know, did it lead into any strange experiences, dreams, or any sort of weird connection with what you were kind of seeing?
Yeah, it did. It's been years since I've done this, and I always tell myself I should keep doing it. I got really good at making it so I would wake up immediately after any dream, and I would instantly write down anything that happened, because you lose it so fast. So that way in the morning you can read through it and it's just as fresh. And there's tons of different extraterrestrial sort of dreams. Out of those, like, I mean, nothing to me really stood out in those dreams that it was maybe nothing more than an actual dream. But one experience I had where it was kind of the first, like, oh my God, what is happening experience was, there was one night, and this was, I don't know, 7-8 years ago. I had gone into my room to go to bed, and I laid down in my bed, and I was not asleep at all at this point. I had just gotten into my bed, and when I had laid down, there was this flash, that big white flash that came in through my window. That was like the last thing I really remembered of being in my room. And then I just kind of have this fragment of a memory of it. At least it looked like I was on some sort of metal table in this kind of, I don't know, like it was hard to see the surrounding room because, you know, there's like a light right on you. But then I just remember seeing two what people would describe as grays at the end of the table. And so I remember seeing that. And then when I kind of came back to consciousness, I came to standing up on the corner of my bed, just like in the corner of my wall on my bed, just yelling, "What the F? What the F?" And then I was like, whoa, what just happened? What is going on here? Just waking up or coming to screaming like that.
So we have a bunch of questions about that right there. But before we go, Josh, you were about to ask something, and I think a lot of our viewers want to know when Brett was talking about CE5.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know what that is.
Oh, yeah.
Would you, explain CE5 for us?
Yeah. So CE5 stands for Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. And so Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind is human-initiated contact. And so CE5 was kind of created and popularized by Dr. Stephen Greer. But prior to CE5, the original 4 types of close encounters were created by, he was a U.S. Air Force and PhD J. Allen Hynek.
Project Blue Book.
Yep. And so close encounters of the first kind would be a visual sighting of a craft. Second kind is some sort of physical evidence being left behind, whether that be radiation, something measurable,
crop circles, etc. Yes.
Yep. And then the third kind is the sighting of a being, and that could be seeing like a craft being close enough to see the being in it, or seeing an actual being. And then the fourth kind, I think, was made by Jacques Vallée, who was one of his associates.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fourth kind is a physical, mental, or etheric abduction. So any sort of abduction that can happen. And then
like your what happened to you with those grays,
yeah,
for example.
like if that very well could be that. So and then the fifth kind is that's the human initiated contact. And then there's people have elaborated and created more from there.
There was 7 total, I believe.
So the sixth kind would be a death related to a UFO incident. And then the seventh kind is the creation of a human ET hybrid.
Yep. Absolutely. You got it. That may be the name of my my book when I get it written.
Oh, nice.
Of the seventh kind. So
do it.
Yeah. Awesome. That's awesome. Great explanation for everyone out there. And with CE5, what are you doing during this process to, what are you asking UFOs and aliens to come down? Are you, meditating? What do you do to get these things to show up?
I think the main thing is just intent. That's it. I know lots of people have lots of different methods for it. So my good friend Costa Macrease, who he runs etletstalk.com, and he was in the first Greer documentary Sirius, and he runs CE5 expeditions himself. He man, forgive me if I explain your method wrong, Costa, but with him and a lot of other people, the more kind of traditional way is getting into a deeper meditation, visualizing. So almost as if you're remote viewing yourself. So you get into a meditation and you kind of view yourself where you are on Earth and start zooming out, almost like you're creating a beacon of where you are, like hey, come over here, and then just kind of waiting. It's almost like fishing.
Almost like patience. You're becoming an astral lighthouse.
Yes, that's a very good way to put it. And then there's other people that I've done some of this with, like Jimmy Church and stuff, when I was with him at the ESETI Ranch here in Washington. He likes the more party method where, hey, just come out, get people excited, just have the good vibes rolling, and then just kick back on your lawn chairs and see what happens. And
I like that one.
Yeah. And I, for myself, I kind of go through it all, just kind of whatever I'm feeling. But
there's a lot of different ways, it sounds like,
I think it just comes down to intent.
Wow. And all right, so going back to your dream, and do you got a question, Josh?
Yeah, I had a couple about CE5. Do you need an app to do it? I know there's a lot of people that ask that question, and I'm probably is.
You don't need anything. You need maybe a lawn chair, just to relax a little. But
you need your eyes, and you need to
sky.
Look up, and it's absolutely free.
Yep, that. And then I've never done this method, but I know a lot of people where, if it's just a super cloudy or just weather-wise, a night where it's like, how are you going to see anything? Where people will have their CE5 in their house, where they'll keep it more of a like an esoteric or more mental psychic sort of experience. And so a lot of people go that route where they stick to the more remote viewing side of it.
Awesome.
Wow. That's cool. And going back to, I got some questions about your experience of that dream. You woke up, you were standing up, and you said you were on this metal table and you had a light in front of you. On the walls to the outside, did it seem dark, or was there light on the outside? Or was the only light you could see was the light in front of you?
It was such a quick sort of piece of a memory where I don't really even know what was over on the walls, because it seemed like with how the light was, where my eyes were able to focus, it was kind of just in my really immediate surrounding area where it seemed like a bigger room, but
So
couldn't really
this was
see
a
much.
sudden flash of memory that
Yeah.
obviously something a lot more happened, but as much as you could recall of it from what they didn't, block out and wipe out, it seems like you recalled this flash of just seeing the light, these two gray beings. Were they short or tall?
Shorter.
Okay, shorter. Interesting. Big old heads, black eyes, typical grays.
Yeah, like that. I can't remember if the eyes were black. This was quite a while back, but I just remember seeing the gray beings, me on a table, and all of a sudden I'm standing on my bed in my boxers screaming.
Were the beings more of like a silhouette because of that bright light shining in you and at your face,
No, I think because of how the light was, I could definitely see them.
Okay. Wow. That's wild.
I have a couple of questions too, Brett. With you saying it was like a fragmented memory, do you have any emotional attachment? Like when you just think about it, do you get a bad gut feeling? Was it kind of like just more or less strange?
I'd say it's just more of like a strange thing where I've always wanted to be like, man, if that is like something that was more than some weird dream that resulted in me standing on my bed and coincidentally seeing a light flash in my room, then if it's more than just all that, then yeah, I've got no idea what the heck happened in between. I've always been very curious about that. So I know I've looked into and I've talked to many people that do like hypnotic regressions for stuff like this. And that's one of those things where I, for years, keep telling myself, man, do it. Like, let's get all those pieces put together. But then I always back out of it.
You're not alone, Josh. This has been a common occurrence.
Yeah.
We've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of us are afraid to, because we have a good idea that there's a lot more going on, and we're aware of our surroundings, you could say, at the moment.
Yeah. Interesting about it, it's always the males that it's always the guys, like we are the ones that don't want to do it. You always hear the girl ladies are like, yeah, I got it done.
Yep.
It's a lot, and it's terrifying to have those things come out to the surface. And a lot of our guests have had regression, and others, they want to get it, but the same thing you're saying, they're just hesitant on it. They really want it. I feel the same way. Completely understand.
I try to like analyze myself and be like, man, what is it for why I'm not following through? And it's one of those things where when I really break it down, I feel very like hypocritical and like it doesn't make sense, because I've kind of established my like whole online everything, my music around encouraging people to do exactly what I'm not doing. And so it's weird, because it's one of those things where I've made a lot of videos and things and social media posts about how like the fear of ridicule is what holds so many people back in this world, because it's weird stuff, man. Like coming forward saying any of this stuff, I know how weird it sounds. It's getting less weird because more and more people are coming forward, more and more officials are coming forward, but it's one of those things where I've stepped this far into what I've openly talked about, but then it's like, man, how do I talk about what else I find out, if there is, anything else?
It's the unknowing.
Yeah.
It's the uncertainty.
It's intimidating too. I mean, we're all around the same age too, and it was way different when we were kids. I mean, the stigma with it, and you had just like the ridiculousness of the Inquire going on too in the 90s. And
that's kind of our generation is the one that I feel like is breaking a lot of that down for the next generations. So
trying to make it easier.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, having this experience and the unknowing of it is definitely the hardest part, and that must have, you know, been a lot to go through, and also questioning yourself. And but it seems like with this phenomena, although we may have one odd experience, it never stops with that one odd experience. Am I right?
Oh yeah.
And then, even though we try to dismiss something as a strange dream, when you stack everything up, it becomes a little clearer and clearer and clearer. So, would love to hear the rest of your experiences.
Yeah, well, between then, like, I had plenty of various sightings, going to various kind of like CE5 events and UFO events over the years. So, plenty more sightings than I can even count. And of those, like, out of the amount that I've had, there's got to be some percentage of that was more than something tricking me. And so with that, but then I'd say like the kind of the trippiest experience I had was I went with Costa and his ET Let's Talk event he held at Mount Shasta. So I got to go there, and it was really amazing because he had a documentary film crew there, the Making Contact team with Rob Freeman. And so it was another level CE5 thing just because he had all these night vision cameras. It was just the biggest camera setup I've ever seen, just scanning the sky and stuff. There were people that showed up to this event that were ex-government in various positions that came just because they are super into all this. And so a very interesting group of people from all over the world were there. And we were there for about five nights of being on the mountain, doing our CE5s each night. And during the day, we would all get together and do sort of like group meditations and various kind of group and bonding events, hoping that, the more connected and in sync we are, the more powerful and better results that we would have at night. And during one of the days, we were doing like a kind of group meditation thing. It was a very long one. It was probably like an hour. And at one point in it, it started out as being like sort of flashes of like kind of faces and silhouettes and stuff, where there was a couple where it started out where it was a couple that they were more of the gray sort of looking thing. But then all of a sudden there was just like the silhouette of like a mantis head, and it just stayed there for a while. And it was almost as if I got like a warning of like, hey, if you want to step here, stuff might get a little intense. It was almost like gauging me, and hey, whatever the hell's going on in my head, let's see where it's going. And so then from there, all of a sudden I saw it looked literally just like a big praying mantis, much bigger than myself. But then there were also
what color?
Green.
Okay.
And then there were a few like kids. Like one was closer to like maybe almost a teenager or so. Another one more like 6, 7-ish, then a super young one. And they were like a human mantis sort of looking thing, where it was the only really mantis feature of them was somewhat of the head shape. Wasn't like a full-on bug head shape, but in between human and mantis, and like bigger eyes and stuff.
Were their eyes like a mantis or more like a human?
It was like mantis size, but kind of more human-esque with how they looked.
And what color were they? The hybrids.
They were like an off-white-ish.
Off-whitish.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Wow.
Yeah. And it was like super weird because this is like one of those things where it's like, man, it's so weird saying it, because it's like I felt like they were like my kids, and it was just the trippiest sort of thing. So
You
then
felt
I was
some
like,
sort of bond with them.
yeah,
right?
and I was like getting super like emotional about it, like asking them like, oh my gosh, like things like, oh, do you get like, how was your life? Like, are you being made fun of for being like this
Yeah.
hybrid thing? And it was like more of like a reassurance, like, oh no, everything's all good. Like it was super weird. Yeah. 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 And, but I was like sitting with them and stuff, and just having like a brief sort of communication where I was like, oh my God, like,
Did they make any
is,
sounds?
I don't remember any sound.
Okay.
Yeah. And,
Wow.
yeah, it was, man, it was a weird experience, because then like I came out of it and I was just like crying, and yeah, that was
Wow.
weird. So it's like one of those things where you can't help but be like, hey, like, yeah, I was there for a week doing nothing but thinking about and doing stuff that's alien related. So was that just me getting in my own head? But then it was like, that was so real and so trippy, where it's like, I don't know, man, that's a trip.
Right,
Yeah.
man. It sounded like you had a remote emotional response to it. It's
Yeah,
wild.
no, that was one of those things where I was like, because like I said, there was a documentary crew that whole time, and I was like, oh man, I can't handle any of this being on there. So yeah, that was a
And
weird thing for me.
and something interesting, generally when it comes to hybrid alien offspring and hybrid programs, for the most part, it's women. There are
Mhm.
only a
Mhm.
handful of men's stories, which one of the things I may suggest, one of my quirky ideas, is that, men lack the emotional maternal knowing of having a child even when it's not physically there. And I really think this is happening with tons of guys, but it's almost like we're lacking something that is able to connect them to them, unless we physically see them or in an astral state communicate with them. It's just really, really interesting. And it really makes me wonder, Brett, back to as you were laying down, flash of light, and having that flashback, and you saw Grays and they had you on a table.
Yeah,
The Grays are notorious with using and working with the mantis. And were the Grays extracting DNA, and were the mantis using that to create these offspring? I don't know, but it's
that, and that's something
It
where
sounds
I've
like it.
tried thinking to like, okay, based on like how the age of some of these looked, it's like timeline wise, it's like maybe it does line up. But then there is
they grow fast. They
yeah,
grow
but then there's like a
fast.
couple
Right.
others where I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't really
I don't know where
know,
they
like
came from. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
I'm not out sleeping around in outer space that I know of. So
Do you have children of your own?
yeah, I've got to.
So you do have that fatherly instinct. You know what it's like to have one of your kids there, love them.
Yeah.
So, and this is the exact emotional response you got when you saw these beings, which were gray and more humanoid, versus the taller green mantis being you saw standing behind them.
Yeah, yeah. And so no, it was something where, because that was like a couple years ago now, and it's like after that happened, I definitely was like super kind of looking into all this sort of stuff, like the hybrid stuff. But then that's one of those things where, I mean, up until I talked to you, Robert, a couple days ago, there's only two other people that I've ever spoken to about any of that. And
I'm
that
glad
was
you're
a trip.
coming
That was something
forward.
where I
Wow.
was like, man, that's something where, what is going on here?
Thanks for
Yeah.
having the courage to tell us on
Yeah.
here.
Oh yeah, I
Absolutely.
figure if if I can put that out on the internet from there,
And
I got nothing to lose.
Right.
now you were telepathically communicating with your hybrid mantis children. The larger green mantis, was there any sort of communication or any feelings you got from the larger one standing behind?
From that one, it was like more of like a gauging me, where it was, I think that was the same one where when I kind of saw a silhouette where it was like a warning of like, hey, like this might get kind of intense. And so I think that, well, it was just more so they're kind of feeling out when it's time to like, okay, let's stop this or whatnot. But I don't know,
Studying
because like,
you, it felt like
yeah, because
scientific.
there was, yeah, it was more of like an observational sort of thing, not really any direct communication. But yeah, I don't know. It was weird.
Wow.
With you saying that you have kids too, I do too. Did it honestly feel like that paternal when you saw the
Yeah.
hybrids?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I think, part of what tripped me out so much was because it's like, you know, drifting off daydream, or like, you know, if you get into like deep meditations, you have, you know, some
Mm-hmm.
things come and go and stuff. But that was like, oh man, that was something more than what I've experienced in any other sort of state of all the various states I've put myself in.
Yeah, man. And the hardest part too, and for you, for all the women out there that have hybrid children, the not knowing if they are all right, are they being enslaved, is a hostile extraterrestrial species using them, are they miserable, are they happy, do they miss, you, do they want to be with you more, there's so many things that are unknown. And to be a parent and to have children and not allowed to be with them, only for dream states, abductions, and things like that in a room briefly. You're not even touching them, just communicating with them. It must be really hard, no doubt about it. Wow, man.
Yeah, no, that's something where I definitely it's just like, all right, that's too
And this
crazy for me,
happened at
man.
Mount
Just kind of blocked
Shasta.
it out.
This
Yeah.
happened at Mount Shasta, which Mount Shasta is known as a major energy grid. A
Yep.
lot of
Mm-hmm.
electromagnetic energy there, vortexes, stuff like that, a lot of UFO activity. Did you have any other experiences when you were there?
Yeah, I had a couple. Like, I mean, that whole place was a trip. So, another thing that had happened was during one of the nights when we were actually outside doing the whole CE5 stuff. There was a time when we all kind of stopped and went into like a meditation again, and all of a sudden it was like I heard like, oh, this is home or something of that sort. And then it was all of a sudden like I was seeing through the eyes of something else that was on the outside of the mountain, but then kind of walked through a rock and went into the mountain. And there was like these kind of big kind of crystal pillars that were wrapped in metal, and it's like a very brief thing, but it was like for a moment I was like getting my own little guided tour on the inside of the mountain. So that was, yeah, that was
Wow.
pretty weird. It was short, but it was very like vivid, like it was like my own eyes seeing it.
And that's interesting. One or two possibilities, I would say, and probably a question you may have, and all of us that are watching, is was that your higher self astraling, astral projecting and seeing this? Or were you picking up on another energy entity that was in the area, and were you seeing it through that?
Yeah, that's something where I'm leaning more towards it was something else, just
Mm-hmm.
because like of prior to that all happening, like the kind of like audio of like something along the lines of like this is home or Shasta's home, something like that. And then, because I mean, as far as I know, that's not my home. I'm on a mountain, but pretty far away from that one. So
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Shasta would be a great home.
yeah,
Right.
it
It's
would. It
filled with,
would.
I believe, is it Lumerian quartz? I believe there's a
Yeah.
certain, the whole mountain is a giant crystal. It's a big part of, I believe, why it attracts so much energy, which makes it a central hub. Just like what you were saying with CE5, turning ourselves into a lighthouse to get the attention. When you have an energy site like Mount Shasta, a giant crystal mountain on ley lines and electrical grids, it's just asking for weird stuff to happen for sure. Yep. Wow. So Brett, you've had a couple deep experiences in meditation, and what happened when you were sound like you were taken by grays and you came back to consciousness and you were standing up on your bed after that experience, then seeing your hybrid mantis, half humanoid children, offspring, with this taller green mantis being. Now, they're absolutely incredible experiences, and it's really interesting that you had these experiences, especially the one of seeing into Mount Shasta and the mantis at Mount Shasta. It's really stacking up and helping everyone understand. But have you, you said you've done a lot of CE5. You've seen a lot of UFOs, and most of us out there, we've all seen the light ships, we call them. Your balls of lights flying around.
Your orbs.
But you went to some really special locations. ESETI Ranch. All right, you went there. You went to Mount Shasta. And throughout your life, what are 3 or 4 of the most incredible UFOs you have seen?
The first one that comes to mind was a friend and I. We were in my old backyard in Marysville, and we had just done kind of our, like, when I started doing CE5 stuff, we kind of had the lazier approach, but it worked, of just kind of going out. We would do a little couple-minute meditation and all that sort of stuff, but I think we were just so into it and doing it so often that we were just kind of quick, or I don't know. But anyways, there was up in the corner of the sky this kind of big red ball that showed up, a big glowing red orb. But then out of that, there was 3 white lights that came out in a triangle shape. So it looked like it was just one craft. But then the 3 broke apart from each other. And so then like, oh, that wasn't, they were just in a formation. It wasn't one ship. And they were kind of spiraling.
And were they falling during this time?
So it was a slight descent down from where the red one was, but it was more of a almost like whirling around each other and going further out, maybe slightly down as they were going out. But at the time, I was living probably 20-30 minute drive from a military base, and then all of a sudden we hear some jets coming from that other direction, and then those 3 white lights just went back, and they went right into the red light, and then the red light was just gone.
What? All right. And I just want to note something for everyone out there that will say, well, that was a plane and parachuters were jumping out and they were doing formations. People that jump out of a plane with parachutes do not go back into the plane.
Right.
Yeah. That, and the red one stayed still the whole time. The red one wasn't moving.
It wasn't moving. Yeah.
It was
and
just the other ones that were moving.
There. Wow. So this red light and these white ones coming out of it and dividing and then twirling around each other. Wow. Yep. And then how many fighter jets?
It was probably just 1 or 2.
1 or 2. Okay.
So yeah, that was definitely one of the more standout ones I've had. And
what year was this? Just in case someone else out there has seen this as well.
It was probably summer of 2017, I would say.
2017. Okay.
Yeah.
Just in
Yeah.
case, you never know.
Mhm.
Someone may have seen the same thing.
Yeah. And I think, because I used to be really good at anytime I'd see something, I would put it onto the MoveOn website.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I did put that one on there. Yeah. So there's that one at ECETI when I went and did, it was an event called Soul Tech. It was like a week out at the ECETI ranch that Jimmy Church put on with his Fade to Black radio. And it was really awesome event. Tons of people and speakers and stuff at that one. And every night we would, and ECETI Ranch, if people don't know, it's overlooking Mount Adams here in Washington. And Mount Adams is also one of those mountains where people kind of call it like an extraterrestrial highway, with just the amount of sightings and tons of like Sasquatch sightings and stuff there. And yeah, one of the nights that we were all out there looking over the mountain, we started seeing lights kind of shooting up out of the mountain. But what was different to me about that compared to any other sighting I've had is there was different colors of lights, that they were just like as if they were just like blasting straight up off the mountain at various times throughout the evening. And I know Jimmy and some other people had brought night vision goggles and laser pointers, and never point a laser at any craft, whether it's human or ET. But a lot of times when people are doing group CE5s, they'll have a laser pointer to vaguely aim in that direction so other people can look and see what everyone else is seeing. And so there were people using night vision goggles to try to see more than what everyone else could really notice, then using a laser pointer so everyone else could kind of look over and see. And just that one of those nights, the night that we saw the colors coming up, like I don't even know how many different crafts people saw, and of which out of that amount, like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those were actually just more meteors or comets or satellites. But the different colors just blasting right off the mountain and stuff, that was pretty trippy. And I know that might have not been that day, but during that same event, I unfortunately didn't see this one because I had walked away and gotten just right far enough to where I could hear a bunch of people being like, "Oh my God," but didn't make it back in time. But there was what everyone was describing, and this was daytime, a daytime sighting of a more cylinder shaped craft that kind of came out from behind the mountain. And I believe they were all saying that it just kind of like stayed there for a moment before it went away. So
and you missed it.
Yeah, I missed that one. I had literally walked away just in time to miss it.
Happens to the best of us.
Yep.
Man, wow, that's incredible. And have you had any other sightings?
Yeah, well, I'd say because out of like other sightings that kind of stand out more than your kind of more standard sighting was when I was at Shasta. There was one, so every night that we would go out at the exact same time each night, and the first couple nights we didn't really think much of it. There would be in the same, like, and everyone had mapped out kind of like what stars and the, like, it was either coming right out of the area of like the Big Dipper or Little Dipper, and same exact time it would come out and it would kind of go along a similar path, and would flash and stuff like that. But then by like the third night or so, everyone's like, okay, that's got to be something that's just on that's like its orbit. That made the most sense because it's the exact same time each night that we were seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then everyone was doing all the research they can, like with the apps, with the charts, going all the websites possible, and nothing made sense for that thing at that place at that time. And so then on the last night that we were there, we're like, okay, let's try to put this thing to the test. And there was like 14 of us or so, and a film crew. And so we were basically when it came back, we were waiting like, okay, is it going to come back at that time? And it did. But this time as a group, we're like, okay, to like really put this to the test, let's all simultaneously like yell flash at various kind of sporadic times. And it would be spot on. And there was no cadence with how we made it totally randomized with when we would do it. But it wasn't just like a little flash. It was just like a huge kind of flash of light would kind of shoot out.
Each time each separate person would say flash, this thing would flash.
Yeah. So we were all so how we were kind of like all as a group yelling it at the same time with each other, but doing it random cadences and stuff. And so that was definitely a cool one, especially having it be more interactive and
in a group.
It's
special because a lot of us, we all see these things by ourselves. And the problem is we forget about it. We second guess it. When you watch something with a group of people, that energy, you understand. I believe it feeds the phenomena. I believe the more people that come together and do it, the stronger the phenomena becomes. It's almost like by coming together and putting our intent and our, higher self and connecting it, it's almost like it tears down the veil. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so I'd say those are more the standout ones, where those are all one. Every one of those, there was at least one other person there. Like at the one in East Eddy that I mentioned, I don't even know how many people. Probably around 100 people were there. And then for Shasta, at least 14 or so. Then that first one with the red light, that was me and one friend. So yeah, it definitely helps you not feel so crazy when there's other people seeing what you're seeing.
That's awesome. That's really cool, man. Yeah. So moving forward now, you're in a band, right? You're a musician. You do some singing, playing guitar, all that good stuff.
Oh yeah.
And your band's Inquire Within. How long have you been playing music?
So I started kind of doing music when I was 15, and I'm going to be 30 in a couple weeks. So about 15 years ago. And I started out only just doing death metal. I just wanted the more brutal, the more gnarly, the better. Exactly. I know. And so I did that forever because all my friends were super good at guitar and drums, and I was the only one that wasn't a musician. So I was like, all right, well, none of them are doing the death metal vocals, but at first I didn't think death metal vocals were real. I was like, there's no way people are actually making those noises. I thought that it was like computer editing, putting like monster effects on stuff. And then I had seen some videos of he goes by Big Chocolate, Cameron Argon. He's got the band Disfiguring the Goddess, and he had like a viral YouTube video back then of him doing some just crazy vocals. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, this is real. People are actually doing this. So that's when it's like, all right, I gotta figure this out. So I spent from then all the way until 2017, I was in various death metal bands. Sins of a Bullet was the death metal band that I had done the most with and kind of gotten the furthest with. And when that band split, that's when I was like, okay, I want to do more than just death metal. I wanted to kind of try out regular singing. And so I had briefly took some lessons, probably not as much as I should have before the first Inquire Within album. For that one, it was like half acoustic, or probably like a third acoustic, a third more rockish metal, and then the rest was just brutal death metal. And so, yeah, that one, it was made with one of the guitarists from my old band, Sins of a Bullet, and then a guitarist of another previous band. And it was fun. It was like an experimental album, lots of genres and styles thrown into it. And
I can
that one.
guarantee you, everyone out there, if you check it out, Inquire Within, it's unlike anything you ever heard before. And I mean that in a good way. If you want to hear
Thank you.
something different, it's very experimental. You can tell all the different passions of music you have and how you kind of infused it really into your own thing. It sounds great.
Yeah, and with
And
that
the lyrics, you know, as a
yeah, the
whole,
lyrics for especially that first album, it was all very much related to like my sightings, my experiences, just
Very cool.
that kind of ufology and conspiracy world in general. And musically for that one, I got about like 16 musicians involved with it from like 8 or 9 different countries. So, you know, I would have like cello from Spain and then another member in Germany. And so I sessioned out different pieces to people all over the world. And I was lucky enough, I got Dirk Verburen on it doing the drums, and he's Megadeth's drummer, and he's been with like Soilwork, Devin Townsend, a bunch of and tons of death metal bands. And I got him, and then people who have been in and out of like Devil Driver, 6 Feet Under. I got really lucky with the group of people I got involved
and that
with that
helped
one.
with the sound too. You got people from all over.
And and I let everyone do like their own thing with it. So it would usually start with one of the guitarists would make a piece, and then I would send that out to one of the various drummers. And one drummer was in South Africa, one drummer was in like Denmark or something, all over. And then from there, send that to a bassist. The main bassist I used, he was in Serbia. And then just send it piece by piece. And it's kind of like, hey, this is just got to do what comes to your mind with this. And so I think that helped make it also so weird. Then after that, I ended out kind of switching the project up and making it a solo sort of effort. So that first album has tons of people. And then I did an EP, some Vartica Fire, where that one was the first time where I wrote and recorded all the pieces.
Was that acoustic or
so that one, it was a more metal one, not quite
metal?
Death metal, but a heavier metal one, still pretty experimental. That right prior to that, I had taken Hans Zimmer's class on film score, and so he did like the score for like Batman, Lion King, Inception, all that stuff. So I took his class on doing film score because I wanted to get more kind of theatrical and epic with the sound. Kind of, I like doing so many different styles and genres, but I wanted to start having some sort of sound that would tie all the songs together. Because like on that first album, everything, it's like one song to the next. They could be on a totally different album from each other. So I wanted an element to tie it all in. And so I did that. And then it's been almost 2 years now since I put out my second album, Meditation for the Devil. That one, it's all acoustic. And so that was the first full length that I had done it all myself. And when I say done it all myself, I will put the disclaimer. I cheat on the drums and I use MIDI. So, you know, don't hate me, people. Tired of paying for drummers. So I'm not going to learn it.
A computer gets the job done.
Yep. Sorry for breaking the drummer economy. And now I'm almost done with the third full length, Alien Elite. And then it's like sub name is Perception Warfare. And that one, it's getting back to kind of how the first album was, like a third acoustic, a third more rock, and then a third metal. So it's like that.
When will that be out?
Well, I told people it was going to be out like 2 years ago, and then I stopped doing that album and worked on Meditation for the Devil. And then it was like last summer I told everyone it would be out, and then it was last winter I told everyone it would be out. So I'm done saying when it's going to be out.
2025, everyone. It will be out.
It's one of those things where I have the artwork is done. I've had for, man, it might actually be almost a year that I've had all of the instruments done and recorded. I even have all instrumentally, it's already mixed. I just I haven't finished recording all the vocals, and I have them all written. It's
And what is the lyrical content? Well, what can we expect? A little preview.
This one definitely gets way more back lyrically to how my first album, Universe in My Head, was, where very blatantly UFO related CE5 government cover up sort of themes, go into some of the dark, basically anything UFO, anything kind of conspiracy, it's in there. As to where with Meditation for the Devil, there's a little bit of that in there, but that one I made it more of like a personal one, more of like your own self-growth, self-journey of learning life and existence. And for Alien Elite, it's back to the more alien theme, and musically
exposing, the CIA, FBI,
all of that,
the Black Vault documents, all of that stuff, and you're just shredding them, left and right on the guitars and on my vocally. Door. Shredding it.
So I just have to finish recording. Part of what slowed it down is since I moved, where I used to live, I had like 30 minutes away from me, like an awesome studio that I would rent out, and I would just kind of be my own engineer and producer. I would just rent out the studio and record stuff there. And now I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere, and there's no studio spaces, and I just got to get my house set up to be able to do all of that. So eventually, one day it'll come out. Like you said, maybe 2025.
Absolutely. Can you give us a vocal line? Put you on the spot like that?
Oh,
bust out a vocal line?
Let me see.
Off of one of your older songs.
Oh, off of one of my older songs. Let's see here. I'm trying to think what will be for this show and everything we've talked about. I probably have 100 vocal lines that would work with it, but on the spot, man, it's like, whoa, your brain goes blank.
Right.
How about this? You can pick any song you want, and you can play a vocal line. How about that?
Suffering in a world full of distractions, polluting how we grow, diluting our vibrations. In a world full of distractions, polluting how we grow, diluting our vibrations, pushing an agenda with false flag operations. Apex of this world's duality has been reached. Vibrations of the sun distorting everyone. Into madness, into love, a step towards all. As they push our families into camps, imposing mandatory protection. Watch the banks collapse, rise a new financial system. As there is war in the sky, a holographic projection. Don't let them conquer your soul, help save humanity's perception. Be with me now, I don't want to do this alone. We can't look down, the earth we know is done.
Yes, so Brett, how can people get a hold of you and check out your music and see what you're doing? And before we go into that, something I want you to talk about. Brett does something really special with Inquire Within, right? And you do a charity thing
Oh
through
yeah,
your music. I want you to talk about that because it's really cool.
yeah. So I'm ever since I started Inquire Within back in about 2017, I've been partnered with this organization called Trees for the Future. And so what they do is they plant trees, but more specifically, they primarily plant trees in areas of Africa where hunger is also an issue. So they plant fruit bearing trees. And so they create forest farms. And so they don't just go in and plant a bunch of trees. 'Cause a lot of times, like various organizations, they'll just try to plant as many as they can. Then only half the trees end out living. And sometimes it's kind of like a monocrop where there's no diversity to the trees, which that can be negative in its own sort of way. But with them, they find fruit trees that are native to those areas and they'll plant a bunch of different ones of them, but they make it a whole farm. And they'll also train and teach the community on how to take care of it. So that way it's self-sustained.
Very cool.
And it's something that the community can do themselves without, because then some organizations, like, they could be doing really great stuff, but then so much of the money is going towards paying their people, which in a lot of cases, like, yeah, people need to get paid. But with this, they make everyone so self-sufficient to where they can go in and leave. And I think financially, I feel like your donations go so much further with them than with others. And so I've made it so all of my merchandise sales and album sales contribute varying amounts of trees. So like an album sale will plant 10 trees. And then various merchandise sales, it varies depending on the type of merch. Like a more expensive piece, like a hoodie, will plant more trees than like a shirt would.
That's
And
awesome. That's great.
Yeah, that's
And then
very neat.
I also, right before I released Meditation for the Devil, I also made it so a portion of my Spotify and Apple streams go towards it. So every 1,000 streams I get pays for a tree to be planted. And so it's,
That's awesome.
there's at this point, like tens of thousands of trees have been planted through the music. So using ufology and rock and roll to plant some trees.
That's a beautiful thing.
That's
And
awesome.
the world, Mother Gaia, planet Earth, Terra, really, really appreciates that. And
I hope so.
people having oxygen, we appreciate that as well. And
Yep.
all of that information will be found in the description, everyone. So go help plant some trees, get some merch, check out the music. And what's the best way people can reach you, Brett?
Well, to reach me, that would probably be through like any social media, Inquire Within on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of it. Some of it's Inquire Within official, some of it's Inquire Within.
TikTok.
Yep, TikTok. I think
Are
that
you
one's Inquire
here on
Within official.
YouTube as well?
I am. So you can find Inquire Within on that, and I will hopefully get my show up and going again. I was going good at consistently releasing episodes up until I moved. So I haven't put out an episode since October, but I have episodes written. So how I do it is I'll write like a big article going over a subject, put that on my website, and simultaneously release an episode with it. And I was used to do it like every Monday. I would have something, a new article and email and everything. So I'll get going on that again. Moving that, had to reset. But yeah, on that. And then my website, inquirewithinofficial.com. That's where you can find everything.
Right on. That's awesome. And down in the description, you can find all of his information. Also, along with Josh and I's email. So everyone go in there, buy some merch, check out, download the CD, the album from Inquire Within, get a bunch of trees planted. It's awesome.
Right.
Thank you so much, Brett, for sharing your story. Really appreciate it. And quite phenomenal, especially about, the mantis hybrid. As a man, that must have been a very emotional thing. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. in any capacity of that. And it's tough. And luckily, most of your experiences have been more of a positive and a higher meditative state. And, seeing craft and interacting with them and having them flash is absolutely amazing. And if anyone out there, you have more information and you want to reach out to them and talk to them, please find the information in the bio. So, and Josh, anything you want to add on to that, bud?
Oh yeah, Brett, it was a pleasure having you on. Definitely looking forward to checking out Inquire Within.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate both of you as well. This has been good, getting the dust off on getting out there, talking about this stuff again. Like I said, there's a lot of the stuff where even though I'm always telling people, hey, share your experiences, do this and that, there were so many of mine that I didn't ever really want to. But I guess, I got to practice what you preach, I guess.
Absolutely. Real disclosure comes from the experiencers. Everyone's valuable. Everyone has to share.
Yep.
So we are the Disclosure. I'll see you all next week. Thank you so much. And we'll all see you next time. Thanks again,
Bye,
Brett.
everybody.
See you guys.
Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to set a reminder for up-and-coming videos. If you have had an experience, please email us at orderoflight777@gmail.com or wearethedisclosure88@gmail.com. If you would like to contact our special guests, information can be found in the description. Make sure to check out the We Are the Disclosure podcast radio on Anchor FM. For additional information, socials, and online store, go to the Direct Me link in the description. Whistleblowers, experiencers, and contactees of all backgrounds, now is the time to come forward. Please subscribe, share, and give the video a big thumbs up. We are not waiting for the disclosure. We are the disclosure. See you next time.